So we'll move on to the next presentation by company Dosecheck. Dosecheck is a low-cost handheld device and smartphone app that lets people rapidly test unregulated drug samples to help prevent overdoses. Backed by Health Canada and now partnered with the US NIH to advance the technology, Dosecheck brings real-time drug safety information directly to communities. CEO Dan, over to you.
Thanks so much. What you're looking at here is a handheld target agnostic technology that is 100 times less expensive than the least expensive comparable technology on the market. This device has the power to detect and distinguish a range of toxic compounds in a sample of unknown composition. And we've designed this technology to tackle one of the most tenacious social problems we are facing, which is the overdose crisis. I'm the chair of mental health and substance use disorders at St. Michael's Hospital and the University of Toronto. I've been working on substance use health for the last 20 years, and unfortunately, what we're experiencing right now is in Ontario, in BC, in Alberta, in a lot of different places across North America, a crisis that has claimed more lives than COVID-19, but is really mired in a lack of innovation. This is a solvable problem. We just need some action and some innovation, and that's where Dosecheck comes in. The issue right now is that we know that testing drugs and providing that information to people who use drugs can prevent overdose, can prevent people from dying. It's in fact one of the most effective ways of doing that. But current technologies are either priced for high-tech labs or they're prone to errors, and they can't adapt as new drugs are introduced into these crazy illegal drug markets. Now, our solution overcomes these problems. Dosecheck is a platform. It's a combination of machine learning classifiers that have been trained on actual drugs from the illegal market, along with voltammetry and biosensors that are held in this device and in consumable vials. All of this is connected via Bluetooth to a smartphone app. And so what you have is a seamless integrated solution that provides anybody. They don't have to be a trained technician. They can be a layperson. They can be a frontline community health provider. They can be just a person who uses drugs themselves with highly accurate information about what is in a sample. And this information can be provided to people within 3 minutes. Effectively, we use differential pulse voltammetry. It runs a voltage through an electrochemical sensor. As the voltage increases, different drugs start reacting with the sensors on the chemical, create signals. That information is sent via Bluetooth to the app where the machine learning classifiers distinguish and differentiate all of the different drugs. And you can see here some screen grabs from our app, including the just an example here of a sample and the way that the information is presented to end users. Now, compared to what's out there on the market, Dosecheck is singular. It is truly unique. It can be used by a consumer. It is portable. It's adaptive to new drugs. And in fact, one of our National Institutes of Health experiments was to see whether we could adapt our instrument to detect new drugs, and we were able to detect a new drug within 2 weeks of laboratory work. It's also rapid. It only takes about 3 minutes to receive a result, and it has a very low limit of detection, which means that it can detect fentanyl and other ultra-potent opioids at under toxic levels, which is 2%. And as you can see here, a number of these other technologies that are on the market cannot do that. And what's truly innovative here also is the fact that because we're using a smartphone as the platform, we have a built-in system to aggregate drug testing data and create drug market monitoring systems that can fill a critical need for government. Government has long been unable to understand how drug markets are moving, but the aggregation of data from Dosecheck tests and its seamless integration into our digital platform allows us to provide government exactly what they need. So we're leaders in this space. We're leaders in biosensor engineering. Drew Hall, our CTO, was one of the key figures in developing diagnostic tests for Operation Warp Speed. Our CSO, Dan Berrio, is the head of biochemistry at St. Michael's Hospital. And I've been doing this work for a long, long time. Our intellectual property and is all wrapped up, and we have some really important separators from our competitors, which is that we have legal access to illegal drugs through a partnership with Health Canada's Drug Analysis Service, as well as the fact that we set up a citywide drug checking service here in Toronto that we can access for samples. We also have a scientific partnership with the U.S. National Institutes of Health. We have a new grant from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research as well. And in fact, we are now at a position where we are going to be moving into market within 2 months fully through non-dilutive funding. And so this is just an incredible opportunity, I think, just given how far we've come and the fact that we're now at the point where we're selling this to customers. As you can see, there's a huge serviceable obtainable market. This is really made up of 2 revenue streams from people who use drugs, which is our second phase, but initially through government-funded community clinics. And even at 5% market penetration, this is a very, very large market. And it's a market that is unfortunately not going to be going anywhere unless we see major policy change, which is very unlikely, unfortunately. So as I mentioned, we have already reached the sales mark. We are going to be fulfilling initial pre-market sales in the spring in a couple months. Before that, we're doing some laboratory and final frontline pilot testing, both in Canada and the US. We're then going to be scaling up and launching our sales in the fall. About 8 to 12 months later is when we're going to be launching data partnerships, right? This is with government to provide government with drug market monitoring data, which again is a critical need. This is the initial vertical. This, I'm passionate about overdose prevention. I'm passionate about saving people's lives. But there are additional verticals here as well that we're exploring. First of all, there's a need for from medical toxicologists and coroners to have technologies that are inexpensive and rapid to produce surveillance data. There's a need clinically for addiction medicine doctors to understand what drugs patients are using so that they can better treat them. There's a need for emergency room clinicians to know when somebody presents with an overdose, what have they taken? And there is a massive need for inexpensive and rapid testing of tainted medicines, just given that the global trade in pharma production extends to countries with more lax regulations than here in North America. So, with all of that, there is a worldwide need for Dosecheck, and we're really, really excited that we've come this far. We've raised $6 million in non-dilutive funding to date from a variety of sources. We have a high degree of credibility. Our technology is performing exceptionally well. And as I mentioned, we're moving into the sales space now. So thank you very much for your interest and for the opportunity to speak to all of you today.
Thank you very much, Dan. Right on time. Really appreciate it. We have some questions in the chat. First question is, has it been used to detect cannabis consumption? What is the sample that is required? And there's a follow-up. What is your fail rate and thresholds for detection?
Sure. So we have not yet focused on cannabis. Really what we're focusing are on drugs that are the most dangerous, right, for people who are at risk of overdose. However, in terms of the sample that's required, it's a very, very small sample. People have to provide either 1 milligram or 0.1 milligrams, depending on whether they think it's an opioid or a stimulant, and put it into the vial. To give you a sense of how small that is, that's just a few grains. And for our citywide drug checking service, we actually asked for 10 milligrams, and we've seen no problem in terms of people providing that. In terms of our threshold, like you would have seen on one of those screen grabs, confirmed, likely, maybe, right? That's the thresholds for that are 90% accuracy, 80% or higher accuracy for likely, and then 70% or higher accuracy for maybe. Our accuracy varies by drug. I can just very quickly here show you some of that. So here are about 17 different compounds that we are detecting pretty effectively. You can see that for fentanyl, for example, accuracy is at 95%. For ketamine, it's at 90%. For levamisole, which is a common adulterant in cocaine, it's 97%. MDMA, 86%. Medetomidine, which is a very dangerous veterinary tranquilizer, it's at 98%. Benzodiazepines, also very dangerous, 94%. So our accuracy is quite high. However, the drug market is constantly changing. So that's why we want to provide people with information that doesn't require us to be exceptionally accurate, because if we were trying to be exceptionally accurate for drug markets this dynamic, we would never get to market. But providing people with even information about what is likely or maybe in their sample can really help save lives.
Thank you very much, Dan. There's a host of questions in the chat that we're unfortunately not going to be able to address, but Dan had left his contact information on the screen. Feel free to reach out to the UTest team, who can then connect you to Dan as well.